Moving on lower in the Dom Luszczyszyn contract ranking standings, the Jets, 25th place in the NHL for their deals. And there was one here. This may have been the biggest shocker to me, like coming from the Jets. We'll get to in a second. So he has Ehlers, an $11 million surplus over the 4 years of his deal. Yeah. So he has Ehlers is like an $8.5 million player, which is like everyone loves Ehlers. Saw what he brought
an awesome
last
player.
Season. What a beast. Scheifele in the green, not shocking, $4.1 million surplus over 3 years. He is him at about a $7.5 million player, which is interesting because like quick to people, and maybe it's like the Canadian thing bias, but like Scheifele or Ehlers, who do you want?
I would say Scheifele, but
yeah, you see, you'd say Scheifele.
But then when you look at their, especially since Scheifele's a centerman, but yeah, then when you look at like the underlying numbers and all the great things that Nikolai Ehlers can do, yeah, man, like to me, it's still really close. And I get it. Like the analytics community doesn't really like Mark Scheifele.
Okay, I didn't know that. I've never really investigated him.
You know, you're saying he's a $7.5 million player, but when you first think of Mark Scheifele, like got them into the conference finals, you know, a few seasons ago, he's like a point a game player. You'd view him as like, you know, he should be worth 8-9 million plus. Mm-hmm. But, you know, according to this model, he's just not. He's like a $7.5 million player. But who would you rather have, Scheifele or Ehlers?
I'm with you. Like my brain immediately went to Scheifele. You know, that's biased because like his name, his popularity, but I don't know, man. I think we're splitting. Okay, we're saying a $7.5 million player versus like essentially like an $8.5 million player according to Dom's model. But Ehlers is really good too. Like
Ehlers is electric.
Yeah,
like
great,
just like
awesome
like,
player.
Based on the eye test, like watch a couple of Winnipeg's Jets games if you haven't had a chance to really watch Ehlers closely. Like, oh my God, this dude just jumps off the page. He's an awesome player. So yeah, I think he's definitely underpaid, and that's a really nice contract there for the Jets.
Yeah. So this is the one here that shocked me, that really shocked me. And this is the one, again, this is why these guys exist. These underlying numbers guys exist. Kyle Connor in the red.
Yes.
That one shocked me. He has him
here
a $4.5 million overpay over the 5 years. Again, he has him at, it's like, it's not that crazy. It could spread over the 5 years, but just weird to see him in the red. And he has him about a $6 million player. I think he's getting like a shade over 7. So like nothing crazy, but just like, I would have thought Kyle Connor, at least fair deal. Like with the last couple seasons he's had, like goals are guaranteed with that guy. So
no, I completely agree. That was one of the ones that jumped out at me immediately. Like just look at his numbers over the last 4 years: 31 goals, 34 goals, 38 goals, 26 goals in 56 games last year. Would have scored over 30 again. So this is a guy that essentially now for 4 years has been a 30 plus goal scorer who is a beast at 5-on-5. I shouldn't call him a 5-on-5 beast because maybe that's what's sort of knocking down his numbers a little bit. But
yeah, maybe.
I know that he like, I'll go check his numbers real quick, Lepore. But man, like this is like one of the best goal scorers in the league over the last 4 years. And, you know, this model has him as a, like you said, like a 5-point-something million player.
Yeah, I think about like 6 million ish there. And again, like the thing I mentioned before about shooting talent, kind of like the other way of Mikheyev, how like Mikheyev's pumped up a bit because he lacks shooting talent. Yeah. Maybe Connor's the case where like he has really good shooting talent, but it's hard for them to get like a metric that combines the formula with shooting talent. But I mean, interesting. Like I still love the player.
and before I'm looking up his stats now, I was right. He has 90 even strength goals over the last 4 years, good for 8th in the NHL.
There you go.
Over that span.
Dom, I don't know, man.
So yeah, that's definitely a little, I don't agree with that one. I think Kyle Connor at 7.1 is a really good contract, quite frankly.
Yeah. Moving forward, the rest of the Reds for Winnipeg, Lowry, just under an $11 million overpay over the 5 years. He has about $1 million player. Nate Schmidt, $7.9 million overpay over 4 years. He has him about, I believe that works out about a $4 million player. And Josh Morrissey, $37.2 million overpay divided by the 7 years. He does not like Josh Morrissey, man. He does not like Josh Morrissey.
Yeah, you know what? That also jumped out to me, not to the extent that the Kyle Connor one did. Like, I think Josh Morrissey is a good player. And you look at his point, and I think I think the reason the model is knocking him down so much is because this is a guy who's the quote unquote number one defenseman on Winnipeg, but he's miscast in that role. And I think, once Dustin Byfuglien just decided that he didn't want to play hockey anymore, Morrissey was thrust into that role. And he really isn't a number one defenseman. Like, he's a good player, but when you just look at his point totals, you want your number one D-man to be more of an offensive threat, like 21 points last season, 31 points the year before that, 31 points in 2019. So like, he's just not a very good offensive player. When you watch him play, like, I think he's a smooth player. Like, he does a lot of good things, but I think it's just his offensive production, that his lack of offensive production, I should say, that ranks him so poorly in this model.
Yeah. And again, like how it's tough to measure, like guys you're playing with, situations you're put in, like they do their best to tie that in. But like you said, if he's miscast and put in situations he shouldn't be in, like consistently, yeah, his underlying numbers are going to look terrible.
He's going to get exposed. Exactly.
Yeah.